Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Business Accelerated. I am your host, Attorney Shaune B. Arnold, and I am very, very happy to be with you here today. We are talking about how to establish your fees in your consulting business. And before we get started, however, I would like to do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to remind you that I am a California business attorney. And that means that to the extent that we talk about legal issues here on Your Business Accelerated, they have to be taken in that context, in the context that I practice law in Los Angeles, California. So if you live in another state or another country, then you definitely need to take what I tell you to an attorney in your jurisdiction so that you can make sure that there is no difference between the law where I live and the law where you live. I also want to invite you. We do Legal Biz Cafe, and on Legal Biz Cafe, we deal with your mindset. We deal with those issues that hurt your feelings and make you want to cry. And when you listen to Legal Biz Cafe and you listen to Your Business Accelerated, you have two sides of one very powerful coin for getting you into business the way you want to be there, to start, fix, or build a business that you will absolutely love. I invite you to follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. My moniker in those places is Shaune Arnold, again, S-H-A-U, N as in Nancy E. Or feel free to give me a call directly, 213-718-3468, and I will help you start, build, or fix that business of your dreams. We are talking about establishing your fees today. How do you best do it? Well, there are really two methods for setting your fees, and that is either you are allowing the market to set your fees or you are letting your value set your fees. And so let's deal with market demand methods first for setting your fees. The easiest way for most people when they're first getting into business is to actually just copy the competition. You can talk to clients that you have, or you can speak with other practitioners, look in the newspapers, do some surveys, and find out what other professionals in your industry are charging. That will give you a range of fees, and they will go from low to high. And so your next job then will be to determine where in that range you're going to fall. Do you want to be the economic choice? If you do, then you want to be on the lower end of that range. Do you want to be the value-added practitioner? If so, then you need to be on the upper end of that range, or quite frankly, even on the other side of that range. That's one of the sort of drawbacks to letting the market choose your level for you, is that you kind of get constrained by that range, so that you never want to go below market range, but some people feel really nervous about going out of the range on the high end. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about setting your fees according to the value that you are providing to the customer. So if you find that you want to be seen as the most economic alternative, then position yourself as such. And make sure, though, that doing that is going to help you actually get in the door and enable you to get some lucrative contracts. In the alternative, of course, look at establishing what the client is getting and understanding that the client is getting what they're paying for. And so if your value added more than justifies your position at the high end of that fee range, don't be shy. Put your fees there. you can isolate the various activities that you are going to undertake for your client, and then evaluate each of those activities in terms of what the market would pay for each of those activities. Then you determine whether you want to position yourself at the high, middle, or low end of each of those activities, and then set your price, and then you add everything up, and that is your fee. So it winds up being an aggregate of the activities that you are going to perform for that particular client. And that's a really easy way for you to figure out what your prices are going to be if you have a lot of moving parts, if there are a lot of different things that you can do for the client, consulting in their office, consulting from your office, offering speeches, giving workshops and seminars, maybe if you were going to give them a retreat or set up certain systems for them or survey their customers or maybe their employees. All of these are different activities that you would perform for that customer. So you need to put a value on each one of those activities, add them up, and there is your consulting fee. See, isn't that easy? In the absence of this systematic approach, you wind up with a trial and error pricing message that creates confusion for you and a lot of stress and confusion for your client. So to the extent that's possible, you want to be systematic about arriving at your fees. And this is going to help you if you have a lot of different customers coming in the door and maybe they know each other, so that you have to be able to standardize your fees so that everybody is paying for the same thing that's getting the same thing, and you don't wind up with your clients being mad at you. So there are some things that you need to be aware of when you are using this market-based approach to setting your fees. There is a tendency, as I said earlier, to be constrained by those ranges, so that if you are offering something in your unique selling principle that nobody else in the marketplace is offering, then by all means step outside of that range and set your price on the high end. Just never, never, never set your prices on the low end or even comfortably in the middle and think that this is going to lead to dramatic growth in your business, because it won't. The way for you to get dramatic growth in your business is to set your fees on the high end and make sure that the quality of the services that you're providing really speaks to and is in alignment with those high prices that you're setting. So, when your fees are just based on your client's ability and willingness to pay, then that can put stress on the collaborative nature of your relationship with the client, because you will, by default, you'll start taking things off of their plate. And so just be aware that it does cause a strain on the relationship between you and the client. Be aware of that, all righty? I also want you to be aware that it's difficult to assess one client a higher rate than another. The exception would be charging new clients higher fees than old clients. But be aware that clients do refer business. And so if you have a long-standing client that has a lower price and they refer you to a new client, you need to be aware of whether they quoted that price to the new client, because they may be expecting that new price. So you may have to be ready with a conversation that the old client gets most favored nation status, but new clients do not. Just be aware of it so that you don't get sandbagged by that conversation in the event that it happens. One thing that I want to make you aware of is that You can also set your fees based on the value that you are providing to the client. And by the way, it's really important. That's the client's perceived value, not your perceived value. The client needs to understand what you are offering them, and that is the reason why you want to list out all your activities and price each of those activities, then figure out how you want to position yourself in the marketplace, high, middle, or low, and then add up all of those individual market ranges, the fees, and give your consulting fee price. This will help you hone that perceived value from the perspective of the client. And here's the most important thing. Once you give them that perception of value, you want to make sure that you ask for the money. So many of us are so afraid to ask for the money. If you know that you are providing valuable goods and services, you are doing people a disservice by not properly valuating your goods and services. People do not appreciate what they do not pay for. The more they pay attention. Raise your prices and ask for the money. So there are some things in this scenario that I would like for you to be aware of as well when you are establishing your fees based on values. It requires that, first of all, you never cite a fee before you're prepared to do so. And that happens a lot in those initial meetings with clients where they want you to tell them how much it's going to be. Don't be afraid to tell them, listen, I need to take a look at all the moving parts first. When they say, give me a ballpark figure, you still do not want to answer unless you're prepared to do so, because chances are you're going to lowball yourself. And then you're going to wind up in the bleachers instead of right behind home plate. So be strong. When somebody is trying to force you into giving them a price, tell them that you need to take your time and that you'll get back to them later. And then get back to them later. Actually follow through on that. You also need to make sure that you have spent time building the relationship with the client to the point where they understand that value. If they start screaming about price, that means that you did not properly communicate the value of what you're offering to them. So make sure that you slow down. When they start talking about price, you start talking about value. And make sure that you build that relationship with them so that they really trust you and that they defer to your greater knowledge in these things. If they do want to negotiate your fee downward, make sure, and this is very important, make sure that you start removing items from the service column as you decrease the price. That's very, very important, because once you start decreasing a price without decreasing what they're getting, they will never get off that soapbox. You will always be asked to decrease your price, and that will follow you to new clients. So be prepared to walk away from business. Sometimes, and you've heard me say it before, sometimes you do need to fire a client. And once you are perceived as a patsy, a fee patsy, you'll always be perceived as a fee patsy. So stand strong. Figure out how you want to set your fees, whether it be market-based or value-based, and then be very, very certain that you understand the value of what you are offering to the marketplace so that you don't get yourself into a situation where you underbid. Folks, those are the tips that I have for you this evening. I want to thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Your Business Accelerated. I look forward to talking to you next week and every week. We will see you then. Bye-bye.